like I said, I live in a very great neighborhood. 10 minutes down the road. They would never attempt to put this type of facility in that neighborhood, and they wouldn't because they know people like myself and people like my neighbors. We're going to fight to all hell breaks loose to stop something like that. But they move down to that quaint, quiet neighborhood where they think nobody's paying attention, and they try to drop something like this, and it's sad.
Hello. Welcome to the Voices of College Park podcast. I'm Adrienne Murchison, and I'm going to be bringing you conversations with residents who speak out on city issues and controversies. As a journalist, I have been covering College Park for more than a year, and it has had its fair share of controversies. Still, College Park, Georgia, is a unique city, a lovely city. It's a place where residents really care and get involved in the city dynamics. And some of the issues that have come up this year have made national news. City council meetings can be chaotic and unusual as a result of an ordinance that was passed in January that limits the mayor's ability to speak. The mayor has a pending federal lawsuit against the city because of this. The council has been accused of not being transparent, according to residents and their objections about some of the agenda items that have been passed. And one of the big items that was approved earlier this year was a rezoning for a site that will bring a battery storage facility, a lithium ion battery storage facility, and it will be located in a residential community. And the community is one of senior citizens and retirees who have lived in their neighborhoods and their homes for decades. It's a wooded, quiet community, and residents are very concerned about battery plant fires because many have taken place across the country over the last year and beyond. So, we're going to be talking about this project in this episode. It's a project that is being built by Next Era Energy Resources. And I'm going to be talking with Mose James IV, one of the leaders in the community, a resident. He's not an elected official, but he is one of the leading voices in the community. And he is among a group of residents who started a GoFundMe campaign to raise funds to fight this project from happening in the courts. So we're going to talk to Mose about this. The way that this rezoning came about is that residents have been outspoken about this project for years. The site of the project, it is in College Park, but it borders the city of South Fulton, which used to be unincorporated College Park. And as I say, residents have been speaking out about against this project for a few years. It was denied rezoning twice. And then in March, it was brought back to the city council agenda, but it was brought back undercover. Residents were not informed that this rezoning was going to be on the agenda at this March meeting. It was added at the last minute, and it was added seemingly secretly. The meetings are streamed, and you can go and watch the meetings. I'll put a link in the comments. Uh, Excuse me, I'll put a link in the description for this episode so you can go see that particular meeting. And when it was added, when the rezoning was added to the agenda, it was unclear. It was an item that the mayor repeatedly asked about to get clarity. What is this? What is this topic? What is this agenda item? And finally, she realizes, and the public begins to realize, if you're watching the meeting, hey, this is this rezoning being brought back. And there was no presentation by Next Era about the project and any changes that might have been made, because it had been denied rezoning previously. So it was approved undercover. And also, Next Era gave the city $1.6 million, and it was going to be received, according to a document, in installments. And one of the payments, according to a document, would have been paid upon rezoning approval. So there's a lot of questions that came up about this whole project even being approved for rezoning, let alone the reality of it for residents who feel that they will be impacted by it, because literally, for some, it is in their backyard. They have woods, some residents, in their backyard, and that wooded property is owned by Next Era, who will be building the battery storage plant. Why should you care if you don't live in College Park, or even if you don't live in Georgia? Because some of these local issues and dynamics can happen in your community if you're not paying attention, if you're not even aware and don't speak out. I am a former reporter for the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, where I was covering College Park as well as 4 or 5 other local cities. And the newspaper media company recently discontinued intense local coverage of small cities outside of the city of Atlanta. And this has an impact because there is a space, it creates a space for even less accountability for local government officials. I am continuing to cover College Park through another publication, the Supporter Report, as well as this podcast. But my point is, if no one is paying attention to what goes on during these meetings, there can be a lack of transparency, there can be a cutting of corners, there can be a misunderstanding of what's really going on, because there's no need to be clear and transparent. So I will share more. I'll have some links in the comment, and Mose and I are going to discuss this, and he will share, obviously, perspective as well. So let's get to it. Let's meet Mose, a voice of College Park. Welcome, Mose.
Well, thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Thank you. This is the Voices of College Park podcast, and you are the voice of College Park. I know there's many of you. College Park is truly becoming united, as your T-shirt says, United College Park. But you are a big, big voice in College Park. And would you speak to why all of this is so important to you? Everything that's been going on, taking a stand, and your history in growing up in the area.
Without a doubt, and like you said, one of many voices in College Park. As we had conversations before. I never set out or sought out for this to be the case whatsoever. I'm very happy staying in my house and playing with my kids. But my wife and I, we decided to invest and build our future in College Park. I've been in College Park since the day I was born. My parents brought me from Southwoodson Medical Center right over here to our house in what was an unincorporated College Park at the time. And I've had a very great life. I grew up around great neighbors over near Welcome Mall Road. And, I got to see what great families were like, what hardworking college parkians were like. And I knew that the things that many people might see play out on the news and might play out on television, that was never the College Park that I personally experienced. And that's not to say that everything was roses, but I knew that there were great people and great families in College Park. So when my wife and I were considering buying a home, and we were lucky enough that we could live anywhere in the metro Atlanta that we wanted to. Once we just really started balancing things and comparing apples to oranges, we knew that we wanted to grow up around people that honestly that look like us. We wanted our children to be in an experience like that, and we also wanted to be a part of the growth and the future that we saw happening here on the South Side. We can go to other sides of town and live right down the street from a Whole Foods if we wanted to, but we knew that all that was in line and coming right here in College Park, and that's where we decided to make our home. We live in a beautiful part of town. We have neighbors of all different races, sexes, sexualities, and our kids, they get to grow up in an atmosphere like that, which is even different than where I grew up just 10 minutes down the road. Everybody in my neighborhood looked just like me. But now, they get to have all these different experiences, but again, right here in College Park. So it's a very special place. I've shared with you many times. My porch has become a meeting ground at times, and that's not just in recent months. It's always been that way. It's an open opportunity for people to come share ideas, and we talk about anything from sports to politics to just whatever new whiskey I might be into. And it's a really great way to grow up. We don't plan on going anywhere. Again, we could go places if we wanted to. The only place you might catch us is in Costa Rica retiring. But other than that, we plan on living right there into that house until our days are done.
Right.
I'll leave something to our children.
What does it mean that this project could take place? It seems likely that this battery storage plant of NextEra is going to go up, although you're fighting it. What does it mean that this could be in your neighborhood?
That's extremely unfortunate, and it is still in my neighborhood now. The actual battery storage plant is about 10 minutes down the road from where I currently live, but it is footsteps from the house that I grew up in. And
The site.
the site of the battery storage facility. And what bothers me so much about that, like I said, this is a house that I was brought home to after I left the hospital, and it's a home that my parents bought back in 1976 for $40,000. They did not have a lot of money. They took out a 30-year loan on that house, and then had a second mortgage on $40,000, which in 2024 sounds like y'all couldn't scrape together that kind of money. But they worked hard and they did everything that they were supposed to do, just like all the other neighbors in their neighborhood. They worked hard, did exactly what they were supposed to do. And now that house is worth around $230,000. This is the first time in my family that they were set up in such a way that they could really leave something to someone else. And that's what my parents thought that they were doing. That's what all of my parents' neighbors and other friends thought that they were doing. But what happens when a government, and not even your city government, decides to put a battery storage facility right there in your backyard? What does that do to the community, and what does that do to the home values? And we haven't even gotten to the danger of the battery storage facility, but just what does that do to the neighborhood? And that's what bothered me so much about this. Both my parents, they both passed away very close to each other last year. And that's when it was shortly after that that I found out what was happening in the neighborhood. And, you know, part of it is not only am I fighting for their friends and other people that their friends, but also my friends. These are people whose dinner tables I ate at. But I would hope that there were good people who are like myself that would step up and fight for my parents if they were still there. So that's honestly why I dove head first into this fight.
Yeah, and I want to make the point that the neighborhood is so quaint. And if it was possible to pick up the neighborhood and bring it over to North Fulton and set it down, the property values would be even higher.
The exact same neighborhood. I mean, and this is when you ride through this, because this is an older neighborhood. You know, nowadays with these new neighborhoods, you ride through, every house looks the exact same. But that's not how it was back in the 60s and the 70s when they were building these homes. It's a beautiful neighborhood where you come into the neighborhood and everybody cares about their yard. It's it's great people who, again, they've done the right things and they've lived
And
in
raise
many
their
other
families
residents
there.
lived there for my entire life, 40 plus years. So it's it's one thing if you consciously decide to move into a neighborhood beside a battery storage facility, if you consciously decide to move into a neighborhood that's at the entrance of an Amazon warehouse, those are conscious decisions that you make. But for some reason on the south side, and I'm talking south side of Atlanta, South Fulton, our neighbors, again, we make these investments and we wish for the best, but we look up and there's warehouses surrounding each and every one of our neighborhoods. Outside of my parents' neighborhood, not too far, there was a dump, kind of like a recycling facility of sorts. And all these things, they are essential. As many packages as my wife orders on Amazon, I know that we need Amazon warehouses. But why is it just in our neighborhoods? You don't see this happening in other areas, and that's where the problem lies. Like I said, I live in a very great neighborhood. 10 minutes down the road. They would never attempt to put this type of facility in that neighborhood, and they wouldn't because they know people like myself and people like my neighbors. We're going to fight to all hell breaks loose to stop something like that. But they move down to that quaint, quiet neighborhood where they think nobody's paying attention, and they try to drop something like this, and it's sad.
Talk about the GoFundMe. So far, it looks like you've raised almost $6,100. The 10,000 is your initial goal, $10,000. So talk about what you all are trying to do with the GoFundMe to fight the facility.
Great. If you don't mind, I'm just going to back up a bit. That I want to give a lot of credit to that neighborhood. NextEra first purchased that land, I believe, in 2020. And then in 2021, they needed that land rezoned in order to create the battery storage facility that they want to create. That neighborhood came to the council meetings in College Park. It's important to know the residents live in South Fulton, but this land happens to be owned by College Park. So they needed to go to our city's government in order to fight this. So they came to College Park. They spoke out against it, and this was during the COVID time. So they were on Zoom doing this, and they were successful. They changed the minds of the council meetings, of the council members, and they successfully fought it. This comes back up in 2023. They came to the meetings. They brought signs to the meetings. At a public hearing, they spoke for hours at this public hearing. And where you're watching the video, you can literally see the minds of some of these council members changing, and they voted down again. So now they've been victorious 2 times. And then something happens, an election happens, and new members got onto the council. And in 2024, March 18th to be exact, they bring it back to another meeting to rezone this land. They do it this time with no public hearing. They add it to the meeting at the very beginning of the meeting so nobody knows what's going on. They don't even want to say the name of the address of the property that they're attempting to rezone. And it's at that meeting with no debate and no discussion. Within 20 seconds, they pass through the rezoning of this land. And I think anybody can look at that and they'll be curious as to how does this happen right here. So that's one of the things that really got me involved in what was going on, because aside from the many, many, many dangers about this battery storage facility, it's just plain wrong that they would do these people like that, where they've been fighting, they've been successful in their fight. So the GoFundMe was all about, instead of just Mose James and other people wearing this t-shirt saying how wrong it is, we needed to get a lawyer involved. And we're raising $10,000 to get that lawyer engaged. And we were very successful in really the first 72 hours that got us enough money to get her started on the process. And this is a loan fight, so we wanted to make sure that we secured enough funds so that it's not just, hey, can you look into this? Now it's actually preparing the paperwork to do our best to stop what's going on. And she's already done an amazing job and discovered a lot of things that we didn't know, because all these things are very technical. I'm a business owner. My wife is a nurse, and many other people that wear these shirts, They all either have real jobs or they're retired. We're all having to figure out a lot of things like zoning and policy and looking into charters. We're having to do all this on our part-time, so at some point it actually takes a little bit of money to get somebody who really knows what they're doing in to help you do the fight.
Can you share anything so far about what the attorney has been able to do? Or, I mean, I know it's a legal matter, but
Yeah,
what can you share?
and I definitely don't want to step on too much of that, but I will say in conversation, the attorney has dealt in this space for 3 decades, and she was just aghast at the things that she saw as she started to look at the meetings and look at the ways that this was brought to the surface. I can put out things in the public domain that I know, but I don't want to dig
Right.
too deep into what she's doing in her strategy. But when they first we had where the rezoning was brought up in a council meeting, again with no public hearing whatsoever, no posting of a public hearing, which we believe is wrong. It had just been denied a couple of months before they brought it into this council meeting. That's another area where we believe they were not able to even bring the rezoning back so quickly. When they voted this rezoning through, they attached it with a $1.6 million grant that they were supposed to receive from NextEra. And if you followed along, and I'll share for those who might not know, they didn't even have the paperwork to support the $1.6 million grant the night that they voted it through. Our city manager said, "I'm sorry, ma'am, I'll get it to you the next day." The next day comes around and they still didn't have the paperwork. And we learned later they didn't have it because it had never been created. It was a fictitious grant from the beginning. And when they finally were able to produce the grant paperwork a couple of days later, we learned that the $1.6 million was a contingency agreement, where the very first step of that contingency agreement was that they needed to rezone the land. And that's how College Park would receive $200,000. They
Of
had
the 1.6.
of the 1.6. So there were steps that were all along the way that was tied to them receiving a $1.6 million grant.
Right.
So this just, to me, this doesn't seem like the way that a proper city would be run. And,
Right.
it bothered us, and we continue to look into it. Now, I will say they went and tried to pretend like that first grant never happened, and then they wrote a rebuttal grant that said, "Oh, no, 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 College Park doesn't have to do anything. We're just going to give them the money at our will." But this, you see these things happening, and you really just have to sit back and wonder, like, who's running the city and how is it being run? And they thrive on the fact that people aren't paying attention. Uh,
Yes.
there are many agenda items and many actions that happen in a city where they hope that nobody's looking. And that's probably worked for them. It didn't just start working for them in the year 2024. It's worked for them for decades, for scores of years. But now, people are a little smarter. Everybody can watch the meeting on their cell phone. And some of us, we have time to do nothing but watch the meeting. And that's what United College Park has been about.
Yeah. I mean, some of the actions are so blatant that it just inspires you to watch and see what is going on and why.
Well, once you see it, it's hard to look away.
Exactly.
Trust
Exactly.
me, I would love to just go back to playing NBA 2K with my son, but unfortunately, I'm going to meetings because you have to be you have to be a part of the solution. It's funny, like just last night, Michelle Obama was speaking at the DNC, and she said, "Do something." Barack Obama, he brought up his quote from a long time ago: "Don't boo, vote."
Right.
And I think that it is upon all of us. Did not have a political bone in my body, but when I look at what's happening to a place that I love so much, and I know that there are others that might not be in the position that I am that still need that support, it makes you want to work harder.
Right. And when you mention how this was really approved, the rezoning of the land, it was really approved out of public view, it seems intentionally. And the other night, at the meeting the other night, the council meeting, Councilman Roderick Gay was talking about in his comments that the public didn't need to be there because the vote was a formality. So I want to ask you what you made of his comments. And I also want to mention something you said in your comment the other night that struck me. Who does an unenlightened constituency benefit? I thought that was a really
Well,
good question.
They being able to work in the shadows has served them well for so long. Hoping that nobody's paying attention is their greatest asset. And I ask again, who does an unenlightened constituency benefit? I think if they claim to have very good reasons to want to build a battery storage facility in my parents' backyard. Well, it's your job to now sell us on that idea. You should be able to come out in front of the crowd and you should say, this is why we want to do this is why I want to move forward. But instead of that, what they actually did was they didn't even want to say the name of the land where they wanted to put this battery storage facility. And I know as a child and as having children, I would hide my report card because I didn't have good grades on that report card. So I would come home and act like nothing ever happened. And then when my parents found out, that's when my hand got popped. And I think that's a lot of what's happening right now in College Park. As we find out more things, the hand is being popped a little bit. And it's playing out in newspapers, it's playing out on the radio, it's playing out on television. The thing that's shocking to me, though, no matter how many times their hand seems to get popped, they double down and do the same thing over and over again. And that is what concerns me. I think this is a perfect time for our council people to say, I hear you. It's a perfect time for them to get out here and really connect and engage with their constituents. But instead, they kick us out of meetings. we had a council meeting where they kicked the entire room of people out of there, claiming as if they were being disorderly, and it
Right.
just doesn't pass the smell test when you look at the videos. So, it's very the only word I can really use is sad. It's just simply sad that the people that you vote for and that you put into these positions, that this is their approach to unity. And
Yeah.
but I also know that we can fix it, and that's why we're in the fight.
Absolutely. And I want to point out that it is the epitome of a lack of transparency, because this property is literally in backyards. I mean, it's not like, you're not saying that figuratively. It's literally in people's backyards, and the dangers are real potentially, because there have been fires of these storage facilities.
And where you normally see these storage facilities, they're in industrial areas and they're in more remote areas. And there's companies that's getting paid millions and millions of dollars to sell us on why these things are safe until they're not. We see it play out in the news. We see in different countries around the world, or right here, I believe it was in Oakland, California, just a couple of months ago, where these fires start and they're unable to put the fire out. So the guidance is just to allow the fire to burn. Well, where they want to build this facility right here is that it would actually trap a neighborhood in their homes. So when you talk about just let a fire burn, those individuals would not even be able to leave their neighborhood for however many days that fire is left to burn. I believe the one in Oakland burned for about 8 days not too long ago. We do not have, unfortunately, when we lost the hospital I spoke about earlier that I was born in, South Fulton Medical Center, we lost that a couple of years ago. That was our closest hospital to this neighborhood. Now we're driving all the way downtown Atlanta, or we're driving far into Clayton County in order to get services. So in the event that this were to catch on fire, where do we go? the firehouses around our own fire chief, who's no longer with the city of College Park, but he said that we would need additional fire trucks and 8 additional firemen to be ready to handle something like this. We're not equipped and we're not staffed and we're not ready for this. And they want to sell us on the idea of, well, it may not catch on fire. Well, it may catch on fire. And why would you put your citizens in that type of danger? And especially for there's no money that's worth putting your constituents in that way.
Yeah. Yeah. Is there anything that you want to convey that I did not ask you about this issue?
Well, I think the beautiful thing is, and it's right there at the top of my shirt. It's interesting how this particular issue is something that has been able to unite the community. I think that two things that has served our city government very well. Number one, being able to operate in the dark, and two, pitting its citizens against each other. Our city, for some reason, is broken up into these imaginary lines that are broken up into Ward 1, Ward 2, Ward 3, Ward 4. And as long as they can keep those wards fighting against each other, then they're able to freely operate whichever way they want to. And usually it seems to be in the shadows. But what they've learned is that these citizens care about each other, whether you're in Ward 1 or Ward 2, Ward 4, Ward 3, and whether you are sitting nicely in College Park and it's going to affect your neighbors in South Fulton. They've learned that we don't see these imaginary lines that they've created. We're all one community, and it's brought people together. So when we see donations coming in, they're not just coming in from South Fulton residents. They're not just coming in from Georgia residents. People are contributing because they know that, it's just one world, and that there is times where we need to come together and support one another. And that's one thing I do thank the council for. I'm making new friends all across the city because we're all aligned on fixing this issue that we see, whether it be the battery plan or just simple governance, transparency, and accountability. We've come together. So I want to thank them for uniting us.
Yeah, and this could happen anywhere. So this is such a good example of why it's important to pay attention.
And it is not only could it happen anywhere, it's happening everywhere. And once we put up the websites and we started making the Facebook posts and TikTok posts, we literally get comments from other cities all across the United States and sometimes outside of the country, because it is happening everywhere. And again, America is going to have to look at new ways to store and serve energy. That doesn't mean that it needs to be in my backyard. And we also have to protect our citizens and make sure that they're put up first. And I know you travel extensively, just like I travel extensively. There's a lot of land in Georgia where you would not have to tear down my playground to put up a battery storage facility.
What are some of the websites that people can go to learn about some of the issues, this and others in College Park?
Definitely. Two of them. There's unitedcollegepark.com. So definitely go check that one out. It is unitedcollegepark.com. And you can also go to speakupcollegepark.com. That is a running dialogue and conversation. You'll see a little bit of everything there. But it links to a Facebook group that is very active and just bringing about transparency and accountability here within College Park.
Thank you so much, Mose.
Thank you. It's been great meeting you. I am so happy to be one of the voices of College Park, but only one of the voices of College Park. There are many, many, many of us. There are people who have been in this fight since I was born. So I am only one, but it's also exciting to see so many new young voices in College Park that's taking accountability and making sure that they are crafting the city that they deserve.
That's great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us. In an upcoming episode, I will be joined by two residents who will be directly impacted by the battery storage plant project.